Michelle and D be having tonight, right? And I brought two guests with me to take part in that conversation. And just before I bring them on, if y'all will just indulge me, yeah, I'm saying for just a couple more seconds, I just want to take a moment to frame up this conversation in the right way. So let me just go ahead and get that done. Hold on.
Talk your shit, Professor
You know what I'm saying?
Omowale.
Let me make sure this conversation is framed up appropriately. I mean, how do I want to do this? I want to make sure that y'all can see everything that I am discussing very clearly. Y'all go ahead and smack that like button. All right. Silencing the A.L.A.R.M.S, the anti-liberation and alternative resistance movements. All right. So listen, right? If y'all go to that playlist that is on my page, because the alternative resistance movements, I've already dealt with them before in another presentation, right? I literally have a presentation called what was it called? It's right here. Response to O'Shea Duke Jackson and the Fall of the Conscious Community, right? O'Shea Duke Jackson did a video about a year and a half ago talking about, the conscious community had fallen, and he was creating the so-called, or he was equating, right? He was equating the so-called conscious community with the RBG, which I don't even know what an RBG community means, but he was equating it with the Pan-African community and the Black Power community. And I was like, ho. First and foremost, as Professor James Smalls told us, there's no such thing as a goddamn conscious community. So I used that presentation to distinguish between the community of informed scholars, right, that we know of, the John Henry Clarks, the Marimba Anis, the Amos Wilsons, right, the Jacob Carruthers, the Asa Hilliards, right, that community of warrior scholars that represented the best of the African-centered tradition, right? It was them. And then it was this new crop of showmen that were created via, Brother Sanetta's platform. I always talk about this. I give Sanetta his credit. I give him his flowers for being able to create a media platform. But I always say, when we talk about the polluted stream of Black political consciousness, Sanetta did play a huge role in adding to the pollution that was flowing through that particular stream of consciousness. And what I mean by that is, Sanetta being the vehicle by which a lot of this generation was getting their information from. This is even before YouTube, when you would go to 125th Street to the table and you would purchase a lecture, right? With Sanetta being that vehicle, those of us who were coming into consciousness had no ability to distinguish between who was who and what was what. So you get this situation where, you go to a table on 125th Street and you got a lecture from Dr. John Henry Clark sitting next to a lecture from somebody talking about the planet Riz, Nibiru, the stars, aliens, and metaphysics. Right? These two things are not the same. But because you were getting them from the same source, folks started to equate them as the same. So when I'm talking about the alternative resistance movement, what I'm talking about is these pockets or developments that rolls up within the Black world, where you got people feeling like because they're engaged in debate, or because they're in so-called conscious circles, or because they're spreading the information, that they're doing liberation work, right? And those particular vehicles represent another form of a safety valve community. It's a community that the government would love Black people to be in, because it's a waste of time. It takes you nowhere. It is no threat whatsoever. Right? Debating religion, debating history with people who aren't even qualified to have these debates is a waste of time. It's entertainment. It's showmanship. Right? It's a form of economy. But it's not the same thing as what Dr. John Henry Clark or Amos Wilson or Francis Cress Welsing, right? Or Chancellor Williams. It's not the same thing as what these scholars were doing, right? These scholars represented a brain trust, or dare I say, a think tank that was applying their African genius to the problem of European imperialism, European colonialism, and all of its aspects, right? These two are not the same. One is a legitimate liberation effort. The other is an alternative resistance movement, right? So I think that we need to clarify that, and we need to distinguish that, because when we say silence the alarms, this is what we're talking about. The alternative resistance movements and the anti-liberation movements. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time today talking about the alternative resistance movements, because we've already covered that. If you're interested, there's a playlist pinned to the top of the chat, right? There's a playlist pinned to the top of the chat. You can go in that playlist. You can click the videos. You can check it out, right? So I want to move beyond the alternative resistance movements, and I want to spend some time today dealing with the anti-liberation movements. And this is what my guests, who are in the back in the green room right now, are going to be joining me to discuss. All right. So let's